All right, guys, let's do it. A brief season review. This is currently, I would say, in the earlier stages, but we're kind of in like the mid game. So this is my impressions of the season and a review and kind of answering the question that I've been getting asked quite frequently. Is this season worth playing? So starting off, the thing that makes this season different are just going to be these new hearts. You can put these into your jewelry over here, and depending on the color of the socket in the jewelry, that allows you to place whatever color. You can't re-roll the colors. Basically, it's just the hearts they drop. They can scale in power, and some of the numbers can be a little bit higher, but they do affect the gameplay quite a bit for some builds. And I say some builds because certain classes get way better ones than others. So starting right off, how do you get these? Are these super rare? Can you use these early game, or is it only like a late game thing? Early game, you cannot get the raffle ones, which are kind of like the super good ones, although some of them aren't really that great. In terms of these being super broken, because I heard a lot of people kind of asking about these, like how OP are these? Again, it kind of depends on your build. So this is what I'm currently running right now. So I have a lucky hit chance to have cutthroat skills slow the enemies. This one is just thrown in here because I just don't have anything else to put in that is in the pink category. The pink ones are a little bit weaker, I would say, on the rogue. Now, in terms of the blue ones that we have this brutal heart, which makes it so we get to suppress some sort of damage over here. Then when we activate a certain skill, it's going to explode and do some damage. The other one that I have makes it so when I use a subterfuge skill, I'm going to put shadow decoy, and that's going to explode and do a taunt on the enemies after a certain duration. This one early on is actually quite big. So how does the season mechanic work? So there is kind of a campaign. I'm partially the way through in terms of like in my progression here, but I want to give you guys a brief little gameplay. So there are these areas on the map where you'll see that there is like a little leaf on the dungeon. So this is a tunnel that is a malignant tunnel. So I'm going to go ahead and just warp over here, and I'll show you guys how long it takes to kind of do one of these. We'll just go ahead and do one. It's relatively fast here, so you guys can see how fast we can complete one of these. Now you can get nightmare dungeons that also count as these tunnels, so that is another thing. So we'll just go run over and we will do it. Now what's cool is you can keep on running these, but you still don't get to upgrade your glyphs, which is kind of what you want to do towards like the middle-ish of the game. So we're going to go inside the tunnel, and there's going to be these monsters. We're going to kill them. And in terms of my review, I think that the season mechanic is pretty good in terms of its pacing, because you get to engage with it earlier on. There are some seasons in all the Diablo games, heck, action RPGs in general, which of course you need to have an engagement maybe later in the game, or in the earlier stages you just simply cannot do it. So we're just going to be focusing in on not completing the dungeon, but looking for the malignant monsters. You can see this one over here has a brutal on it. So we'll kill this monster, and when we kill the monster, it is going to drop a heart that we have to like put in the cage. I'm going to kill all the enemies around it first. This way we can not have any clutter, so you guys can kind of see how it works. So first off, this is the whole league mechanic. Okay, so when the heart appears, you can capture it. So it takes a second, and then what's going to happen is the monster is fought again. It takes a little bit of time. In terms of my review and feedback, this sometimes can be a little bit longer than necessary. Like I don't like sometimes how long it takes, because I just want to move on. So you basically are killing the monster 2 times, and there's also this different currency over here. Now, as you progress, and I can just leave it, it's not like I invested anything into this area here, but I just picked up this one, and now we get to become immune after take more than 20% of our life in single hit. So there's defensive ones, there's offensive ones, and there's kind of utility based ones. There's a great website that has this. Heck, it's on like I've already made a YouTube video that talks about this, but it shows some of the effects. Some of them are actually pretty good, like this one called the Barber. It makes it so your crit strikes and all subsequent damage within a set amount of duration is absorbed by the target, and then the absorbed damage gets to erupt after duration, and it's increased by, it says 10%, but it can actually be increased. Like this number can vary, as you guys can see from this over here. So that's basically the mechanic. Now you can kill more monsters, and eventually there will be some sort of like little orbs, and instead of just killing the monster and killing it again, you'll see different colors, and you get to put these things called invokers in there, and then you can guarantee the colors, because certain colors correspond to offensive or defensive ones or utility. So I'm going to go back into town, and I want to show you guys kind of the way that the crafting system works. Now we're we're only in World Tier 3. Certain ones, I believe, are only going to be dropping later, and I'll show you guys the one white one that I have. So the white ones, or I'm going to call it like colorless, because it doesn't matter what color they actually go in. I'm going to go back to Kyovoshad because some of the areas in terms of like how you can interact with the new seasonal mechanic just don't exist in certain towns. So you have to go to very specific towns to interact with it. But I'm going to grab my white heart because I only got one of these, so I want to show you guys what the heck that does. So I like some of these hearts. Again, it depends on the class you're playing. The Necromancer ones are actually pretty solid earlier on. It lets you just automatically cast some of your corpse skills. But anyways, this is the one white one that I have. So this is a white one, so I can put it in anything. I can put this heart into anything, but it will delete what's ever inside. You can't take them out and change the colors or anything like that, unfortunately. I wish you could. I wish there was more than just the hearts that dropped. I wish there was currency to change the colors of the socket, or maybe even add more than one socket. That'd be really cool, just to make these powers even more powerful. Because in terms of the season mechanic and how I feel about it, like, is it worth playing? Do I find the seasonal mechanic like super unique? Well, these items are unique, true, but remember, even if we get like, let's say, some sort of like damage reduction or increased damage, we lost half of our damage in the first place. So if you take away your damage and then give us more damage, it's basically the same piece of content, right? So in terms of that, I'm not sure of how I feel about that in terms of being way super broken like they were talking about, but some of these effects can be kind of cool. This one makes it so we have increased damage when there's a different crowd control effect on the target, and this can start stacking up to, I believe, infinite times. It doesn't say like a max amount of crowd control effects, but we could apply like 7 relatively easy on our class. If I was to get like these other ones that apply like there's one that applies like a little stun grenade, and I actually kind of like that one earlier on. However, like even later in the game, these, I don't know if it was like intentional, but this number of like 32, it doesn't seem to scale way higher as you're progressing. So like in the end game, am I gonna still hit for like 32 damage, right? Like that's nothing. So some of these I think really need to be scaled in terms of numbers, and it's still on lucky hit chance. So you still have to proc lucky hit, then you have to have a 20% chance on a 33% chance like with Twisting Blades. And it's just like, it's very conditional. And again, it depends on the class that you played because certain ones will roll. Now, in terms of a review on the season, I think for a lot of people that haven't played, they feel like it's underwhelming. They expect to see a lot more content. They expect to see different classes, new skills. And while I would have been really happy to see at least maybe one new skill for every single character, the legendary aspects, yeah, that can help out, you know, for more content. But I think what would be cool is like 5 new legendaries for every single class. So to make basically what I think would be really awesome to see is every core skill be very viable. Like there should be a brand new legendary or aspect for every single skill, so it kind of changes up the playstyle. Maybe barrage is something where you stab them with your arrows. I want completely different mechanics to really refresh it, because when we add some small little thing where, okay, we get to deal more damage with, like, let's say some sort of a malignant heart, it's like, okay, yeah, it's just more numbers, but you took away numbers. And even if we didn't have like the big massive nerf that I'm kind of getting some negative feedback right now, or I should say a lot of negative feedback, the thing is that like even if we got that, it's just a numerical change. It doesn't actually change up the way we play the game for the most part. Now, some of them, there is a way where you are changing up your gameplay a little bit more, and I actually really do like some of the changes. There is one where like you spend HP instead of your resource up to a certain amount, and that one can change things. But this is the new character over here that we can interact with, his workbench. So if we interact with it, you'll see over on this side over here, I'll move my face out of the way. We have a few different options, so we can craft the hearts and just get a random like effect. Now, it will just craft one of these random ones, and it will give it based on the character's level, so as you progress. And if you want to get these E-cores, you can just get them, or you can salvage these items, like over here. Let's say I don't need this one. I'm just going to go ahead and salvage it, and it's going to give me that E-core. We got 7 E-core. So that's how we can craft some of these. So basically, the blue one costs the purple and red, and then the other ones, they just cost kind of like the opposite colors. And you can just craft some of these randomly. But they're really easy to get, so I don't know how worth it is to craft unless you're looking for a very specific one. The important ones are actually going to be the white ones. So the white ones are the most important, but it requires sigil powder, and then also yeah, there's a little bit more rare. But I've gotten I think we've only gotten like 1 or 2 so far. They're quite rare. But on top of that, you can craft a hash that will have a caged heart. And there's a chance for it to be a Wrathful or an Invoker. So you can get a Wrathful Heart or Invoker, depending on the one that you want. This one just gives it to you instantly. This one lets you kind of choose the the different thing that you want to put in. So that's basically the crafting mechanics of this season. I wanted to see a lot more, and I would have been really excited if they added a little bit more content. There is kind of a story campaign, but I mean, I've already uploaded the first, I mean, I've been playing the game for a couple hours here, but like the campaign gotten about, it's about an hour so far, but there is still more content here to do in like the season journey, and they're marked with this little green thing over here, and I actually need to progress once we hit 55, and then I'm going to do more of like the campaign. So far, there's a little bit of a story, there's a new boss, but you find him multiple times, but I'll have to wait and see. But a lot of people wanted to know, like, is this season worth playing? So at the end of the day, I would say this season, if I was to rate it, be like absolutely godly amazing season, or like a terrible, you definitely want to skip out. Where would I rank this in terms of a 10 being perfect and a 0 being like terrible, right? Or a 1, right? I would say it's like maybe a 5 for me. Some of the effects are quite exciting, but at the end of the day, in terms of content, like there's a white heart for Rogue. Let me go and pull up this one over here. There is a Rogue one called the Apothecary. So it makes it so your attacks have a chance to apply all imbuement effects at up to 50% normal potency. So that's cool. Yeah, that's awesome that we get to apply all of these things, but at the end of the day, I want things to completely change up the thing. I want to be absolutely blown away with content versus like most of the quests, honestly, are go here, kill a bunch of stuff. I'm talking about like the quest is supposed to kind of have like a story here, but they did voice act, so I'd got to give them some props for that. But I would put it probably, again, about a 5-ish. I think 5 would be like, it's average. It's like, okay, we got some new little toys to play around with, but I wasn't blown away. I wanted to see new skills. I wanted to see, I mean, a new class would be awesome. I know a lot of people really wanted to see a new class. That would be awesome. And I think that if you want these seasons to be a little bit better, because we're going to have to play these for several months in terms of content, is there enough content, at least from right now in like the mid-game or early/mid-game, or like halfway, right? Would I consider this enough content for me to stick around from a casual perspective? For people that haven't even hit 100, they might be like, I don't know about this, because it depends on the class you're playing. Like I said, right now, Necromancer is pretty solid because you can automate a lot of the skills. It cast your curses for free, which is pretty massive. They are going to be coming out with a quality of life change like a week or two later. It's weird that they're coming out with like a big patch after they basically nerfed the game. But in terms of like this season, is it really worth playing? In terms of the battle pass, there are like just free cosmetics that you can acquire, but it doesn't change up the gameplay enough, I think, to warrant people that like are not a fan of Diablo at all to come back into the season and be like, wow, this is a completely different game. It's not really like that. And in terms of like the map, is the little tunnel enough? Is it a new enough content? I mean, it almost feels just kind of like a nightmare dungeon, but like obviously without being able to upgrade your glyphs at the very end. I think they could have added a few other things than just these. And on top of that, I wish we had our own storage right here, like a different a little tab, to have more items in our inventory, because inventory management is already a problem in the game, and then now on top of that we have to manage having all these, and we got to salvage them. It's a lot of like extra micromanaging that I think could have been alleviated with more streamlined experience that, like, you know, D3 kind of offers in general. But my thoughts on the season, it's okay, but there is technically like a boss that we get to fight at the very end, and if he's a really, really difficult boss, I'm talking uber Lilith difficulty, then I would probably bump it up to at least a 7, because I think having a special boss, a goal in mind to actually, you know, complete, that makes a season journey and progression much better than, oh, well, here's your new tools to play around with. You just kind of do more numbers or more little effects off of skills that already exist in the game. But they are trying, and I see some innovation here, so I want to give them, you know, some props here. But that's my early impressions and kind of my thoughts on it. So again, if you didn't enjoy Diablo, I would say this season it probably isn't going to be changing your mind, but there are some cool things to have a little bit of fun with to kind of maybe mix up the gameplay just a little bit. Because now, like with that other one that I showed off that was the white one, now I can think about, okay, well, maybe in a group I can have someone apply bleed, I can do slow, and then someone else can do chilled, someone else, like there's a little bit of potential here for like kind of like a group play. So, you know, there's cool stuff. Anyways, that's gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Those are my thoughts. If you guys enjoyed the video, I'd love to know yours down below, and we'll grind and make like an end game update to, is this season worth playing? So for a huge Diablo fan, I would say it's definitely worth checking out. It's not like an absolute skip, but it's kind of like average. Anyways, subscribe if you're new if you want to see more content, and I'll see you in the next video.